Good morning.
You showed up. So I'm Steve from Ocean State Libraries,
I'm Valerie. I'm with a company called ByWater Solutions.
and we're here to talk about pseudonymization. I think I took a couple of those this morning, so I apologize. But there we go. We like cats.
Yes,
I think that's you.
that's me. Right. There. So I get to tell you all about pseudonymization. And I got to tell you, when I worked at ByWater since 2020, and I didn't have any concept of what pseudonymization was until 2025, and it's Steve's fault. But the thing about pseudonymization is it is an effective way to increase the privacy of your patrons while preserving a rich set of data that allows you to learn more about your patrons' collection habits. And like I say there, pseudonymization adds data to your catalog. It doesn't remove anything. It is a new and delightful set of data tables that gives you that rich set of data. So
Everybody repeat after us. Pseudonymization.
Pseudonymization.
It's data
That's data.
and does not delete data.
Does not delete data.
Very good.
and next slide. So we are going to look at the difference between anonymization and pseudonymization. It'd actually be nice if we could see that there a bit. So with anonymization, it goes into your old issues table, which is where you store your search history, and it removes the borrower number and replaces it with the anonymous borrower. So it is taking away the unique data about your patrons. Pseudonymization is making new data in a new table, and I actually want to go to the next slide because that's a little bit more. So this is your anonymized patron. You go into your old issues table and you look at it, and you have a patron that has checked out everything in your catalog. And the only thing you know about them is the dates of the transactions and where it was circulated. That's all that's preserved in your old issues table. The pseudonymized table gives your patrons a encoded pseudonym, and it will store data about those patrons, so you can go in and see the patrons that are circulating. You can see the characteristics of who's a high circulation, characteristics of just lots of different data questions. And something that's very crucial to note is that the library can decide which characteristics they're saving about their patrons. So it is customizable. And I'm sharing with you Deadpool at FanX. FanX is Salt Lake Comic-Con. And the reason I chose that one is that as a mom of teens at FanX, with the teens surrounded by literally 100,000 people, one of the things we told them was, if you are being harassed by Deadpool, which unfortunately is a thing, look at their shoes, because that's how you pick them out later when you're trying to identify the jerk. So, and my point of that is that when you are crafting the data, you want to save enough that it gives you lots of information, but maybe not enough to identify them in a lineup. So it is really up to the library what data is preserved and what is hidden. So like I said, everything, the name is hidden. So if you have one patron in your library that checks out the Deadpool, then you might be able to pick them out by going carefully through the old issues table. but you'd have to know a lot of stuff. And so it's really, really up to the library how to preserve the data and what to preserve.
My turn. So now I'm going to tell you everything that I did wrong about pseudonymization so that you can learn from my mistakes, hopefully, and never ever repeat them again. But if you do make those mistakes, then Valerie will explain how she puts on her superhero cape and mask and fixes them all. So dive right in here. So first off, let's talk about what I did wrong. And what I did wrong was I fought ByWater in the beginning of our migration, and they kept saying pseudonymization is great, you should do it. And I'm like, I'm not ready to lose data. I love data, and I want to make sure I understand completely what's going to go on before I potentially lose anything. But what did you all say this morning?
As data does not.
It does not remove data. Did not penetrate my thick skull. So lesson learned number one, just turn it on. Day one, figure it out later. Load everything into the pseudonymized transactions table. That's where everything is stored in the database. You can always drop some of those columns later on. That's an easy query, but adding not so much. Let's see. So here's the plan we made because I didn't do that, which gets a little tricky. So how did I go about it? I guess I waited a year and a half before I decided I wanted to tackle it. And then I started to understand more about what it did and what it didn't do. And essentially it's what Valerie says, you turn on pseudonymization, it's fine. You're adding data, you're storing it in a table over here. It's actually a really cool table because it makes your queries potentially simpler because it adds additional information to the table, the pseudonymized transactions table. Couple of pieces of information that are really useful that it adds there that don't exist in the statistics table, which many of you use for your reports on circulation, I'd imagine. It adds the home library so you know who owns the item that checked out. It could potentially add the current library. I don't understand why that's useful because that's also the branch where it was checked out from, but it's in there. I chose not to add that one. It adds some information about the patrons, so you could add their patron category. That's already in the statistics table, no big deal there. But we could add their zip code, which is really cool because then we can do some geospatial analysis on our patrons in Rhode Island, which is really nifty. But yeah, it does a lot of great stuff, but we had to do it in reverse. So step one for me is, again, complete data nerd here. I suspect I'm among friends. We maintain our circulation transactions as a flat file, which we upload into Tableau, public free Tableau, do amazing things with the data, share that with our libraries and our library directors. And I don't know, there's none in the room, so I can't really get them to say, yeah, it's awesome. But I'm pretty sure they're really happy with that. They like being able to get at their data and to poke and prod at it, filter, search, and look at different ways of visualizing the data. So step one for me was actually constructing a massive query to get all the data that I really, really wanted so that I could push it into Tableau. And I wanted more than pseudonymization does. So it was a little bit more work for me because I use some weird fuzzy logic to figure out whether a circulation transaction is the result of a hold or whether somebody just walked in the library and grabbed it off the shelf, which I see some heads nodding. Some of you probably do that as well. So personally, I don't use the pseudonymized transactions table, but now it's where I push our members who are creating reports because it's an easy, really easy place for them to go. If they want to look at the difference between holds and browse transactions, like Sue on Tuesday, when we were looking at the heat zone kind of data, she needs to only look at the browsing transactions. So that's why it's important to us there for that kind of data analysis. But anyway, the pseudonymized transactions table is really amazing for just about everything else. I had to get board approval. How long are we going to keep the data? You know, a lot of library consortia that I'm aware of do anything from 8 weeks to 20 weeks. So I went to my members and said, 8 to 20, I vote 13. Let me know what you want. Of course, they just added a couple to 13. We went with 16 weeks. Great, board approval is done. They understood the difference and everything. They understood that we had pre-fetched back to go live all of our circulation transaction data. Step 2, enable pseudonymization. It doesn't go back in time. So we had 2 years of data that was missing from our pseudonymized transactions table, which stinks. And I'm going to perhaps, well, I won't pause there, but pretend there's a pause because we're going to hand that over to Valerie. Other thing I had to worry about in the process there was editing reports. So I ran a report to look for people who were using the statistics table in their queries. So I had a list of report IDs of report owners that I could publish and say, you need to use a different table. If you need help, here I am. And then finally, and as of this morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning, Magical Kyle, who you'll hear about later from a napkin, closed the ticket, and my database pruning ticket that I opened probably more than a year ago, my fault, not ByWater's, is finally done, which is awesome. But this is just a little bit of a snapshot of some of the things that we do with our fancy data, with the extra info in it, which is just proof that I'm a little nerdy about the data, and I gotta make sure I have my own special cache of it. Still anonymized. I don't download borrower data either, but I can't anonymize it in the same way. It's not using the database to anonymize it. It's using some koha thing to anonymize it, which is probably good because I can't reverse engineer and find a patron, and I don't want that ability. Got my board approval, 16 weeks, turned it on, and now I'm going to hand it over to Valerie because that's when I got my report.
So my job at ByWater Solutions is I'm a data and migration librarian. So things like running the pseudonymized historical transactions script comes to me. And we decided to do it on a weekend because we figured it would generate a lot of busyness in the database. And I was running a migration over the weekend. So during migration, I just went into the OSLR site, into Steve's database, and started the script. And then I went back to my work and I let Steve know, oh, it's running. It might be a bit slow. Steve was paying attention and did the math.
I forget now.
I think it was
I think it would have taken 2 years.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, plus or minus.
Well, maybe it'll speed up, but no, it didn't speed up. So eventually I think we stopped it and it went to Nick. Nick, this is running really, really slow. And Nick did some work on it and found ways to make it faster. And I think we did this a few times. We went to start it and then realized it was taking a long time. And
Nick got it down to 40 weeks from 2 years, I think, which was really cool. Like, that's a big kudos. I think there's an award. I should write another napkin for Nick there. That's cutting off almost a year and a half of time on something. That's pretty sweet. But 40 weeks was probably not okay.
it's a lot of complexity here because we are running this on the statistics table while also gathering pseudonymized data, and you don't want to get it twice, and you don't want two different processes writing to the pseudonymization table, and it was complicated. So we were brainstorming on the ByWater side, and I was like, well, don't they have a test server? So the plan we came up with was to make a copy of their database on the test server. And that's kind of how test servers work. They're not live with the main server. They are a snapshot. And then anytime you need a snapshot, you make a new snapshot. So we made a snapshot at the same time as we enabled pseudonymization in the live server, and then used the test server to run the script. And so it would be building the pseudonymized table on the test server based on what was in the live server. And wasn't that like, we got the,
Well, nothing else is, no other cron jobs were running on the test server. So, no notices going out, no spikes in circulation activity, no current pseudonymized things trying to run, no background jobs. So I think it took about a week.
I think it was 2 weeks.
Was it 2 weeks?
Yeah.
It might have been 2 weeks, but 2 weeks down from 2 years,
Yeah.
thanks to Nick and Valerie, was pretty sweet.
And then when we're done, I take the data from the test server and put it in the live server very carefully and make sure that we don't have any duplications. And that's kind of what I do as a data librarian. So.
And that's it. And I think I pinged my members a couple of times and just said, just saying, you have any reports out there that are using the statistics table? If you need a hand, let us know, because otherwise you're going to get some strange results. And mostly people go in, fix their own. I fixed all of ours, and haven't heard yet any complaints. I'm sure there are a couple stragglers out there, so I'm sure we'll hear from a couple of members that run a report and go, something weird's going on, and we'll fix them as they come up. We let our members run reports. I know not everybody does that, which is kind of fun because I think we got 600 or so people in Koha with that capability, which can get a little exciting. But actually, I'm really pleased with it though, because I think a lot of people have used it as a fun learning opportunity, and they're in there and they're doing stuff. It's actually really cool, and it spurred some fun conversations with the members. But there's that. That Kyle, I think, who's been doing the legwork. So I think he went through and configured the database _cleanup.pl cron, whatever that means, because I don't do Perl. But he got that all set for us. Little bump in the road, and as of this morning at whatever that napkin says, we are all set, but we anonymize the statistics table, of course, which most of you are aware of. Old issues, which I have a pop quiz question for Nick in a minute. Old reserves, because completed holds have all that information in it as well. And the message queue to clear out our email notices, because, hey, you've got your checkout slips, overdue slips. We didn't want any of that data in our hands, especially given the current political climate. We just wanted to make sure we were as tidy as we were before. we joined Koha because this is basically how we were set up before. We didn't have that older data. And that's where we are today. So again, I'll mention, you know, my number one lesson learned for people, which doesn't help a lot of you because you're already here, is don't do what I did, which is pretty much don't do what Steve did or does in the future. Because it's generally not a good idea.
I don't know, you have to
For
clean it up.
somebody else, yeah, 'cause then, but if you did, Valerie, Nick, and Kyle to the rescue, who will clean up after you, probably trash talk you in the hallway just a little bit, and fix it all up. My recommendation to whoever handles documentation anywhere, there needs to be a worksheet for coming on board that explains it, and also a worksheet to kind of explain. Has anybody ever looked at the database cleanup cron page with all the settings and whirligigs in it? It's a whole lot. And somebody needs to translate that into human or cat or something. So that's my lesson learned there. And is that you or is that you? No.
That's you.
Oh, that's you. All right.
No, that's not me.
No, that's not you. Your thoughts.
Oh, I have more thoughts?
I don't know, do you?
I think I have shared my thoughts. I have another slide that I need to look at to share.
Okay.
the-
My one, so Nick call out is that there's a wrinkle in this, right? Because if you're using the reading history for your patrons in Koha, there's a challenge there because reading history equals old issues. And so you can't anonymize if you want your patrons to use reading history unless you're in Aspen, and Aspen is storing reading history, not Koha, which is what we do, where we can't see it. Well, we could, but we don't have that setting turned on. A couple more thoughts. I mentioned that there are some limitations in the database. Like it'll store a lot of cool stuff. In some cases, it could store too many things, like Valerie was talking about, you know, staring at the shoes so you can find the person. It's got birthday in there, a little too specific for me. I would love for it to calculate age bands. Just use the IMLS age bands, even though they're weird, because you know, that's statistically useful information, but age or actually birthday with the year starts to get a little too specific in terms of being able to identify somebody. That's really it, unless somebody, ByWater, Nick, wants to enhance the statistics table and pseudonymized transactions table so you can tell whether a checkout is a checkout or a filled hold.
But
That would be sweet.
have you created a bug for that?
No.
You can't with all of them.
Oh, sweet. So we did.
Yeah.
There's a bug. Yay. Bug number?
35712.
35712. No, it does not have a 4 in it. 37152. 35172. 35172. Sorry, I'm really bad at that sort of thing. Don't ever ask me a date. I'm a big joke when it comes to dates. And what else? Oh, that's right there. Yep.
Oh, yeah, this is
oh,
my
we have
slide.
bugs. Look at that.
Yeah, so the
We should
first
add 351.
7-2. Okay, yeah.
But there's more, and that's for Valerie.
Okay, yeah. So the first one was about the script that took 2 years to run. And Vic really, really tidied it up. I think we got it down to 2 weeks, so you gotta hit the anime. This one is pushed to 2505. Yay! So the next one expands pseudonymization into covering ILL. And the important thing is that there is a table name change. So as of 2511, if you have any reason to be looking at the pseudonymized borrower attributes table, you will now have to look at the pseudonymized metadata values table instead. So, and this one will be 2511. And we also have enhancements to the deletion cron, and that is live in 2505. So those are some of the bugs, and there's another bug, and
That I hope you all wrote down that number because I'm not to be trusted, but it does not have a 4 in it. And questions? There will be no questions. Are there any questions?
right.
I guess we should run around with.
Oh, yes.
I'd just like to get back to the data cleanup for a moment. What kind of drugs do they have to give that cat to sit still for the hair?
I think it's the pseudonymization drug.
So we migrated in 22, and I don't remember if we were offered pseudo or not. We probably were not. I don't know. So is it worth it now to go what you went through, or do we just study as she goes? And then if we can't have historical data in our reports, is it worth it to do it now?
I would say a lot depends on the reading history.
Ask them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they have reading history through Aspen. I'm big on patron privacy. There's data about our users that I feel strongly that we shouldn't have in our possession. So yes, I would do it. Buy some, I don't know, bagels and a superhero cape for Valerie, and she'll do what she did to us, which was, I mean, now that there's a really easy path for it, just copy it to a non-busy server and then shift it over. It's worth it to have the peace of mind that you're not sitting on that. And I mean, the pseudonymized transactions table, like I said, it's only missing one thing for me, really. Well, two, if you count the borrower age, but I do that fuzzy too in the big data that I dump every month. But yeah, I would.
I will follow up.
Follow-up question.
Just so you know, I like cupcakes best.
Yeah. We don't have a ByWater hosted test server. We have our own test server. Could we still get the job done with that?
Yes, but if you are running your own test server, you.
If we have access to the test servers.
Okay, next.
That's a big distinction.
Nick says if we have access to the test server. So.
Are there any other questions? There will be no questions. My arms aren't that long.
Kim Neri from Hotchkiss. We've been actual customers for 10 years. I don't know when pseudonymization was turned on. So I don't know how far back that goes. And if it's more than 10 years, that seems like a heavy lift for us. And also, we're not a consortium. We don't have branches. We're just a little tiny thing. I'm actually just thinking of additional measures to protect patrons, because given the current political climate, we have a lot of international students, we have a lot of international employees, and I want to try to add an additional layer of privacy protections so that people can't try to get stuff from us.
I think it's very worth it going forwards. I mean, you might already, are you already doing anonymization?
I need to know.
Okay, well, we can,
We have to look at our stuff and we have to have a talk, I guess.
yeah, I mean, we can
Let's
look at
play
it.
math. How many transactions do you have a month? Sorry. No. We're,
No, it's that, we have 625 students.
okay.
127 faculty.
We have about 400,000 circulation transactions a month. That's what took 2 weeks. It's really not about years. It's about number of transactions. And so that's what about somewhere between 4 and 5 million circulation transactions a year took 2 weeks. So think about the size of your database and do the math there. And it's, I mean, turning it on and then just poking at it. And I mean, basically, I just ran a query that was select count star from pseudonymized transactions. And I would look at it once a day, do some math and go, how long is it going to take to finish here? And that was really all and to make sure it was still running.
Right.
And that was it. So it wasn't like this, like 2 weeks. We were like, no holds barred, nothing else happening. It was 2 weeks and we were just kind of gently babysitting a script that was running.
Well, and I think it is worth enacting pseudonymization along with anonymization going forward. And what Steve went through was maybe unique because he's got very precise data needs. And he has a very rich set of data, and that's awesome. I think it is totally worth enabling it going forward, and then we can look at what you have. You might already be anonymizing and it might already be gone, or you might already have pseudonymization going. I mean, it's worth kind of digging into it and looking, and especially going forward is worth enacting. So
I wanted to add a comment here from my former teeny tiny library system in Iowa of 5 branches and 15 to 20,000 transactions per month. I just opened a ticket and said, would you please run this script? And they ran the script and anonymized or pseudonymized the old issues, and we never worried about it. Like, I think there was a little bit of, we're going to hold on a second as we optimize this, because I think I was coincidentally doing this around the same time Stephen was. But like, we didn't have to have a test server and do complicated things. We were small enough that we were okay. So it is, there's some question of scale there.
yeah.
And that's a really good point. And, for those of you who are ByWater customers, if you all open a ticket right now, I would imagine that they might put you in a calendar. So, just kind of shout out to ByWater. I got your back there. It might take a little time to get through all of those for the larger customers. For people who don't have a huge number of stats, it sounds like, at Andrew's library, it was pretty smooth and it didn't require the heavy lift that ours did.
Since I'm standing here, if you open that ticket, they're going to go, Valerie. So give me some grace. I can only do one thing at a time.
And cupcakes. Apparently, she likes cupcakes better than bagels.
Oh, yeah.
I have what may be a dumb question, but what does it, if you log transactions, if you keep a log of transactions, like we keep like 6 months of logging, do you lose the logging on that? Does that get pseudonymized so you don't know who actually does those transactions?
Yes, we actually prune our logs as well. So the action underscore logs table, because that has that same information in it, a little less readable, but it's all in there. And if we want to honor patron privacy, we whack those logs as well. I'm going to say words, and then I'm going to look at Nick. And Nick is going to go, yeah, because I got it right, or he's going to do a big thumbs down if I get it wrong. But I'm fairly certain that you can configure your logs a little bit more fine-tunedly so you can prune some more aggressively than you prune other logs. So, but yeah, I do get, yay, I got it right. But yeah, we do prune the action logs table, and we told our members, like, if something happens, don't wait 3 months and then ask us what went wrong with it. It's not a big deal. We do get calls, I would say, a couple a month. Who did this? And usually it's actually it's usually that gentleman there in the back. Hang your head low there, Sam. And I would imagine, I never ask because it's none of my business, but my assumption is by the kind of what the request is, it's always a check-in. And I'm assuming somebody checked something in and it was missing a disk, or they didn't do what they were supposed to do when they checked it in, and they just want to find out who it was so it's a training matter. That's my guess. Am I warm? Ish. All right.
Usually when the holds go missing, because someone's checked it in, put it in a bin.
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
usually what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I'm just going to repeat, he said it's usually when the holds go missing.
But yeah, it's all in there. The action logs are chock full of useful bits. Actually, I think I might just use the old reserves table now, because they patched that a while ago where they updated the timestamp in the old reserves table when it was moved from reserves to old reserves. And now I can use that date to do a little fuzzy table join there to determine whether a transaction was a checkout or a filled hold. I used to have to go into action logs for that. I also used to have to go into action logs to determine whether a transaction was an automatic renewal, but they added a field, I think, to the statistics table, or they started populating a field, I'm not sure which, so that you know that something was a cron job that executed the transaction. And that's how I determine whether a renewal was a automatic renewal or a manual renewal, because big nerd here, I care about the difference. Or I used to, actually. There will be no more questions. Are there any more questions?
Maybe a couple comments. I've been poking at bugs over here. And there is a bug that is waiting for sign off to add age and interface to the pseudonymized transactions table. So I'll be looking to sign off on that one. That's 33013.
Lots of things.
I will also mention there's a bug out there looking for sign off, for which I would love a sign off buddy to make it possible to prune your items last borrower table as well, which is sort of the other place that patrons get tied to checkouts, which is, intended to be sort of kept for longer. It's the thing you can turn on in Koha that when you look at an item, it can trace you back to the last patron who had it, but can't take you from a patron to an item. So it's the circulation failsafe who drew in this book that we just checked in. But that also could learn to get anonymized eventually. And if anyone thinks that sounds really exciting, please see me at the working session and we'll see if we can sign off on it, get it moving forward.
Yay.
Gillen Charlton. And I think to riff on the point that Andrew just made, I think it also emphasizes the importance of policy discussions like the one you had, Stephen, because so in the example of retaining the last patron who touched an item, obviously, if you're talking about was returned in the last week and you discover that their cat has been nibbling on the even numbered pages, yeah, we should go after the cat and, I don't know, deliver one less scritch per day or something. But there does come a point where the importance of patron privacy has to, I think, become paramount. So that would be an argument for saying that unless you're literally lending out Shakespeare's first folio, choosing to make a policy decision to let certain things ride after sufficient amount of time is important. And I know with respect to the consortia that I work with, that those policy discussions are super important, but also can be very fraught.
And that's exactly the substance of the conversation that we had in our consortium was like, where's the interface between privacy and finding the person who chewed on every other page, kind of, where's that interface? And I will say in my consortium, right now, that was a pretty smooth discussion. There were a lot of people who just basically said cost of doing business. If we don't find it after 16 weeks, it's the staff's job to look at something as they're checking it in. If we miss it after our 16 weeks, we really tough. We'll buy another book. We're not buying Rolls Royces. So it's, if people check in an $800 telescope, they're checking it out. So we're feeling good about that. But a book, easily replaced. Privacy and that sort of thing could go really, really bad and be much worse than replacing a copy of Dogman. There will be no more questions, but we'll entertain comments. Comment?
No.
Comment?
Yeah.
So we have another slide.
Do we have another slide? We have another slide.
Our faces.
That's us. And contact information. So you can send digital cupcakes over there and probably digital rice crackers over here or popcorn cakes or something. Are we done early again? Do we get an award for that, for ending early?